So, Lisa, your work is obviously very funny. You're a very funny person. I have a feeling that somewhere along the line, you've had some encounters with some fans of your work that might be particularly memorable for one reason or another. Would you share one of these stories with us?
Um, okay, let's see. Well, I remember one time I was at a school. I did a lot of school visits, and this boy came up to me and he was holding one of my books and he said something like June 25th, and I'm like, and he's like June 25th, and he starts quoting something, and he's looking at me like, and finally I said, I'm sorry, but I don't know what you're talking about. And he opened the book and he said, well, I'm quoting from your book. And he was like, oh, because the thing is that after I write, I don't read my books. I think a lot of authors are that way. You kind of, you're on to the next and you set it aside, but this boy had obviously really embraced the book and had memorized it, and he was there to impress me, and I was just like, oh, But that happens a lot. That happens a lot where I'll get part of my books wrong, or sometimes I'll be speaking at a school or something, and I'll talk about a scene from a book that I have forgotten I cut, and that it didn't make it into the final version, and the students are just sitting there with blank faces, and
Yeah.
yeah, that kind of stuff goes on quite a bit.
Oh, that is great. That is great. But the other thing is your books obviously must provide sort of a bit of a flashlight in the dark forest that middle school can be for kids too, I bet.
I hope so. I was speaking at a library one time. I think it was in St. Louis, or it could have been Columbus, but it was a library. And
Right.
so I started speaking, and then partially into my talk, this whole family came in. It was a mom and dad, a boy, and a little brother, and they sat down, and the boy, you could tell he was nervous, but he was very engaged. He asked me these wonderful questions about the story. It was Stanford Longflunk's big time, and it was almost to the point where it's almost like he and I had just a dialogue between the two of us going. And then later, the family stayed after to talk to me, and his parents told me that that was the first book he ever finished. It was the first book he read from cover to cover, and that he loved it. And that morning, the father had Googled me just to find out more about me and saw that I was speaking at the library, and they drove 3 hours so that their son could meet me. And I don't know who is more thrilled, him or me, because that kind of thing, when you get to meet your readers and engage with them on a one-on-one like that, was just totally amazing.
That's great. Well, that's a really great story. And I have a feeling that there are scores of middle school, especially middle school boys, that would demand their parents drive 3 hours to sort of meet you. I mean, Stanford Wong Flunk's Big Time is one of those books that just, I think it just hits a nerve and I read it as an adult, and still it was like, just brought me right back to that time of, feeling like somebody just understands me.
Well, it's interesting because I would say half of my books are from a male point of view and have male protagonists, and I really like writing guys. It's a challenge for me, but I feel that there really isn't a lot of difference when it comes to feelings and emotions and how kids are processing things, whether, it doesn't matter what sex, what religion, what race, inside we all feel the same thing. Whether if a kid is crying or laughing, it sounds the same in any language. And so I like to kind of tap into that. How they communicate is totally different, but how they feel is the same.
That's great. That really is great.